God'll get you for that one.
Maude is owned by Shout Factory.
God'll Get You for That, Walter, is produced for entertainment purposes only.
Sponsored in part by Finley's Friendly Appliances. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
Yes, he will.
Yes. Yes, he will indeed.
Yes.
Today, well, first let's introduce ourselves because
Yes.
you're always going to nail me for that.
I will.
My name is Tomcat.
It's in my contract.
I didn't know we had contracts readily available for that. My name is Tomcat, and I am joined by my fabulous co-star, the effervescent, the talented, the miraculous, the gorgeous Toni Homeperm.
Yes, it's true. It's all true. Not hyperbole.
That is exactly the only amount of compliments that I am going to give this person today.
Okay.
Today we went over Maude, the Grass Story.
The Grass Story.
Which aired December 5th, 1972. And what a progressive episode.
You know, I gotta say, this, for somebody watching it, like when it all originally aired, I mean, I this episode I don't remember.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't even see it when it was on.
I mean, one of the things that CBS probably tried to do was, like, if there was an episode that was really, really, really perverse and, like, not well received, they just wouldn't air it.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they'd air it once and then never again, depending on how much hate mail the show got.
Yes. But I'm just thinking about somebody who was, like, watching the show religiously, that it was like every week was like
something progressive.
Some sort of progressive
some hot topic.
I mean...
Well, that was, as we've mentioned in previous episodes, the first season of Maude, B. Arthur and Norman Lear were, like, addressing these issues head on. The writers, the producers, the actors, they all got together and they were like, we gotta make the show as, I don't want to say as political as possible, but, like, touch on these really, really, really hot button issues.
Yeah.
And this episode was no different. And as we've also mentioned in previous episodes, these issues are still very much talked about today.
Yeah.
So the short story long is Maude heads up a vigilante group to keep a local youth arrested for marijuana possession out of jail. I'm just going to say it right now. I'm pretty sure Harold Collins was not white.
Probably not.
I do not believe that this Harold Collins child was white.
Probably not.
And again, race and marijuana and jail definitely play a very intricate part in the way that this episode was.
Also, social standing, because it was pointed out that Harold Collins' family didn't have money.
Yeah.
We don't know what his ethnicity was, but we do know that he was lower income.
I would definitely say lower income. And I think definitely there's implications of race, but I think they tried to make it as nondescript as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, there were a few guest stars. Elizabeth Fraser, I think, came back as Lorraine. Joe Campbell.
Oddly, though, I didn't notice if she was pregnant.
I think that just... Because I honestly think that was just a fat joke.
Yeah, you think?
I definitely think it was a fat joke.
Yeah, because it didn't seem that
the
she
joke
was pregnant, or maybe she had the baby.
Maybe she had the baby already. You don't know. It's sitcoms.
Yes.
Time passes like nobody's business.
Yes.
But also, they definitely use Lorraine to make several, like, plus-sized woman jokes. Which, She
didn't seem as frumpy, though, this time.
No.
Didn't she seem
She was definitely...
frumpier?
Yes.
When we first saw her?
Much frumpier.
More like housewife with the little kids running around. She seemed...
a little bit more put together.
Yeah. Just even her hair and
honestly, it may have just been the costume department making that decision.
Yes. Yeah.
But
interesting. Just interesting to point that out.
But yes.
Yes.
So the episode begins with Maude and Walter arguing.
Because how unusual for them.
Groundbreaking.
Yes.
Groundbreaking for the two of them to be arguing.
Yeah. And one of the things that was funny is, figuring out when the argument started.
When the argument started. Because Walter had said that it started Tuesday night, and Maude said it started Wednesday night.
Yes, because she had made the Mexican dinner that Lee Trevino recommended.
Yeah. Yes.
And she figured, he would like that because Lee Trevino is a golfer and Walter likes golf.
And that was actually addressed. And it was one of those moments where I'm like, this is a dated joke.
Yeah.
It's fine. Let the joke be dated.
And of course, Walter couldn't... She was sure of which night it was because she remembered which night Walter had the gas.
Yes, because that was something that Walter had pointed out. It's like Tuesday night, all I had was gas from the Mexican dinner you made. And Maude proceeds to say, wouldn't you know if I knew the night that you had gas?
Yes.
Because, married couples, they do sleep together.
Yes.
At least that's what we're assuming.
Yes.
And gas
well,
happen.
we know they do. We've seen their bedroom.
They do sleep together.
They do sleep together. Now, in the midst of this, the doorbell rings, and it's the grocery boy.
It's a salesman, a tomato salesman.
It's a tomato salesman. Yes.
I've never seen any of those.
No, me either.
I don't think we'll ever see them ever.
Not in our lifetime.
Not in our lifetime.
No.
I think it happened in the 70s, so we're already past we're past that.
Yeah. So, she's negotiating.
There's so much going on
with the grocery boy, all the while still arguing with Walter. Also, I have to point out, in this episode, had more people coming in and out.
Coming and going.
And it was like a whirlwind.
It was like laughing.
I don't think any of the other episodes prior to this had more in and outs and everything going on.
Yeah, there's a lot.
This one. It was a lot.
It was very, very crazy to keep track of all the people coming and going.
I'm thinking, like, when they were actually filming this must have been like quite an episode to choreograph, to orchestrate,
block.
To block.
Yeah.
Every, the ins and outs. I mean, Florida in and out, Arthur in and out,
Carol up and down.
You owe me a Coke.
Actually, there was a bit of potpourri that I remember reading, where the reason Carol would constantly go up and down the stairs is because her breasts bounced.
Yes, I remember. Yeah, we've discussed that before.
That.
Yes, although she was kind of, even when she
was very demurely dressed. She was very conservatively dressed.
Wasn't she in like a robe?
She was a bathrobe.
Yeah, so there was not a lot of movement in that general vicinity.
So the reason why Maude and Walter were arguing was because there was a child named Harold Collins, a 16-year-old who works in a grocery store.
He was 17.
17, thank you. 17 years old, working in a grocery store, and he had a quarter of an ounce of pot on him.
Yes.
And Maude, along with other
housewives,
middle-aged, upper middle class white women, were going to be staging a protest at
police stations.
At police stations all around New York.
To get arrested. They were
in protest. To get arrested in protest.
In protest, yes. And of course, it was up to Maude to get the pot.
Yes, Maude's responsibility was to get the marijuana.
Now, Walter, he just wanted to pay for the lawyer, but Maude told him it was so nice of him, but he'd already
paid $500. He'd already paid $500 to the attorneys.
And this is where they also now start talking about the different drugs that they're taking all throughout the night.
I want to touch on the tomato thing.
Oh, yes, please.
I do want to touch on the tomato thing.
We do have to touch on the tomato thing.
So, the tomato salesman is, like, standing around listening to these two this married couple argue like they're cats and dogs. And Maude was literally feeling the bottom of the container. I don't know if you've been in grocery stores. I've been in grocery stores.
I have.
Where you'll have, like, those green packages that have the tomatoes on the bottom or strawberries.
Yes.
And,
you don't know if something's rotten.
You don't know if something's rotten on the bottom.
Yes. And I've had the experience where I get home and there's something is
growing.
Yeah, rotten. There was something rotten in the state of Denmark.
It's their cheese.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So Maude is feeling the bottom of things, all while arguing with Walter about the pot.
And Harold.
And Harold and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And all the while she's like, are you sure the bottom isn't mushy? I've had this happen to me before. And he goes, lady, you got to take your chances.
Right.
So she gives him the 50 cents for a box of tomatoes.
I wish.
We should be so lucky.
I know.
So she takes the top of one half and the top of another half. And then that was her.
Yes.
That was it. She slams the door in his face and goes about her day.
Yes.
Just true to form Maude fashion.
Yes. But she has a way with these
comers and goers.
These solicitors that would come to the door.
Always.
We've seen it before with the flower salesman.
But I think that was just so new for the 70s. series. It was so new for sitcoms to see this very aggressively in charge woman.
Right.
Especially because before that, you would have doting submissive wives. You would have doting submissive women. You would have women who just weren't.
Yeah, Mrs. Cleaver would not have taken the top half of one and the top half of another.
No.
She would have
taken her chances.
She would have taken her chances, but Maude was not one for that.
No,
she was not. She was not having it.
She was not one for that.
So now can we get into where all of a sudden now this starts the different prescription drugs.
I have them written down somewhere. Maude had taken 2 chlorohydrates and a Librium to make herself go to sleep.
Yes.
Carol had taken a Valium to go to sleep.
Yes.
And then when Carol was groggy in the morning, Maude hands her a Ritalin.
Yes.
Like these are I think what did Walter take? I couldn't remember.
I can't remember I don't remember what he took, but that's the great irony of this.
That's the great irony of this episode.
Is that, this kid is going
alcohol and drugs are used liberally in this episode. And the child is being held in a prison for a 1/4 ounce of pot.
Yeah.
While all of these drugs are being dispensed as free as water is in a supermarket.
Yeah, like they're giving out the.
I mean, nowadays you do need a prescription for them,
but so much. Yeah,
which brings
a different story now.
Which brings us to Arthur coming in. I think.
Well, you skipped.
I skipped Florida coming in.
You skipped because we went into the kitchen. And Philip was there for a few seconds. He was eating knockwurst for breakfast.
He didn't have any time. I think it wasn't until the following episode or the next episode where we actually hear Philip speak.
Yeah.
Like in the first couple of episodes, Philip was just there was no.
There might have been one word or something. Yeah. But so Maude offered to make breakfast, but he said no. She
offered to make him an omelet, and he said no, thank you. That was the line. He said no, thank you, and she said, "Thank God if I have to cook this early in the morning." Again, because grandmothers are supposed to be sweet and kind and make their grandchildren cookies, but not Maude.
No, she's like, thank God I don't have to cook for this school.
So,
Walter wanted her to make him breakfast, and she's like, "Here, have the knockwurst."
Have the knockwurst that Philip was just eating.
And he complained he was going to get scurvy.
And she threw him a line.
Yeah, the line.
She threw him a line. But I mean, again, it's that hypocrisy where it's like, don't feed the grandchild the knockwurst, the cold knockwurst, but feed your husband.
Right.
And that was when Walter said, "If I have a diet like this, I'll get scurvy."
Yes.
And then she tosses him a line.
A line.
So good.
So now that's when the doorbell rang, and it was
Lorraine.
Jeff, her nephew Jeff.
When did Lorraine come in?
Later.
All right, so it was her husband. It was her nephew Jeff who had the pot.
Yes.
And this is the only time we see Maude's nephew Jeff.
And he was supposed to have the pot.
He was supposed to have pot, and he did not because there was a big senior prom the night prior.
Right. So,
now, how would a senior prom take place in December?
I don't know.
I don't think they took that into consideration.
Yes. But you know what? All that stuff was
continuity. It happens.
I'm sure also with being that it was like the first season, I'm sure like a lot of things were written like in advance,
months prior, years prior,
and so probably nobody even knew like what order stuff was going to.
But that happens a lot with sitcoms where they'll just record. They'll write the sitcoms out, then they'll record them, then they'll air them, and that's how I think it went with this one.
Yes, definitely.
But it was amusing to me. Like this aired in December, and he had mentioned a senior prom. Just potpourri. But because there was a big senior prom, Jeff did not have the pot.
Right.
Now, what's funny about this is that Maude earlier, like right before Jeff had said that was, "You're always my favorite nephew. I love you so much. You're the best. You're the greatest. You're this. You're that."
Yada, yada, yada.
Didn't have the pot, and suddenly it's, "You're a loser, Jeff.
He's a loser.
You've always been a loser."
Yes, he's a loser now.
But then she's like pleading with him, saying, "Please, I need just wait and hang around playgrounds,
something anywhere, just to find some pot."
And as he leaves, he goes, "Great, I have to have an aunt who's ahead."
Ahead.
And as Maude closes the door, she starts walking, saying, "Walter, what? Head of what?
Head of what?" Which I can relate to that so much because as far as like the weed goes, I'm like, no,
I can take a leave it.
No clue. I think I tried it in high school and I just never liked it.
It makes you jelly-brained.
It didn't even do that for me. It just like I just got like a very scratchy throat.
Oh.
I didn't really.
That's true. It does dry out.
I didn't really get a buzz or anything from it.
I tell you, every time I have enjoyed, I can say that it doesn't really have much of an effect on me. It's just it makes me tired. It makes me tired and my eyes are bloodshot. And then I get hungry afterwards. But I tell you, there was one time I was at a convention in Maryland, and a friend of mine gave me an edible. And it was a gummy edible, where the THC, or either the CBT or the THC is much stronger than in marijuana.
Okay.
And knocked me on my ass. Man.
Really?
It knocked me for a little. I was literally in bed just like, drool coming down my mouth. And I was in full face.
Oh, God.
I was in full face and I was just zonked.
See, I just have like no desire to experience that.
And like I say, it does nothing for it. It does nothing. It doesn't turn me on. It doesn't it does affect how I'm feeling. But sometimes I need to be in the right headspace to feel it because sometimes if you're not careful, you can have a bad time and like have a really, really, really bad anxiety attack.
Oh,
yeah.
Ooh.
I've heard a lot of horror stories. Oh. I've definitely heard a lot of horror stories. But it's the same thing with any drug in moderation.
Yeah.
Everything in moderation.
Yeah. I've just never, now I don't know if this is because, growing up, my father was an alcoholic and really bad and had some very bad experies. And I think that sort of just shaped me as far as like, I just never wanted, like, as far as, like, drinking, like, I could have, I'm fine with having, like, one cocktail. But I could go, like, 6 months and not have anything. The same way. I don't, it's like... No,
you have no vices.
Not really. Not for anything like that. And as far as, like, like I tried pot once or twice in high school. Like I said, didn't do anything for me. Never, ever
touched it again.
Or anything else.
Or anything else for that matter.
People have, tried cocaine and all kinds of things.
I mean, the heavier stuff is always going to be around. The heavier stuff is always going to be around.
Yeah.
Coke, meth, heroin, just all of those Category 1 or Category 5 drugs. I think Category 1's the worst. Category 1s are like really, really, really bad drugs. I think I might have my wires crossed. It's entirely possible. My wires are always crossed.
Could certainly be.
But those drugs, they've existed before us, they'll exist after us, and it's really unfortunate. But the amount of pill popping in this episode,
oh wow,
was just
they were like M&Ms.
Like now I know why there was an opioid crisis and why there still is an opioid crisis.
Yeah. It was. Whew.
So that was
So, she kicks Jeff out, basically.
She kicks Jeff out, and
to get the pot.
Get the pot as fast as possible.
Now, that's when Lorraine comes in. Well, I think Maude went back into
the kitchen to continue arguing with Walter.
That's when Lorraine came in.
Yeah.
And saying that, everybody's ready.
Everybody's on their way. It'll be, I think, 2 girls in 1 car, and then the 6 or 7 other girls will be in
the
Lorraine's Volkswagen.
The VW, yes. It's like, the joke is because, the VW was the bug.
I was going to say, a tiny, tiny car. You're not fitting that many women in 1 car.
No, you're not. So that was what the joke was. And Maude, of course, she's trying to get Lorraine to just go away
and go without them.
Just
so that because Maude wants to make sure that she can get the pot because Lorraine doesn't know that she doesn't have the marijuana.
Actually, Lorraine questioned
her. And Lorraine asked, "Do you have the pot, right?" And of course, Maude, in true to form fact, of course
I have it.
Of course I do.
So she sends Lorraine away. That's when Carol now comes in.
And she's exhausted.
Yes.
She's exhausted because she was overhearing Maude and Walter argue the night prior.
And Maude tells us they weren't arguing. She was just talking loudly.
Because Walter was trying to sleep.
He was trying to sleep. And that's why Carol took a Valium. And so now Maude wants to give her a Ritalin for a pick-me-up.
I never understood Ritalin as a pick-me-up.
I don't know.
I always thought it was meant to calm a person down.
I don't know. Maybe back then it was a
different chemical or a different formula.
They felt it was at a different reaction. Who knows?
I don't know.
Who knows? So Maude is now asking Carol if she
knows anyone who can get pot.
That can get her the pot.
And Carol says no. She doesn't know anybody that smokes grass. And Maude, of course, goes, you raise a daughter, and what happens? She turns out all right!
So, Maude is like, where is she going to find somebody to get her marijuana? That's when Florida comes in. And she says, Florida, I have to ask you a favor. We're family. And Florida, of course, is like, I don't see
a family resemblance.
And Maude is, tell her that she needs marijuana. And Florida, of course, is like, she says something that she only does Dr. Pepper.
I'm a Dr. Pepper girl.
She's a Dr. Pepper girl. I do love Dr. Pepper.
I enjoy Dr. Pepper. I need to be in the right mood for dark-colored sodas.
Yeah, really?
I do. I try not to drink any of that stuff just because it's so awful.
I know, it is bad.
It's so terrible.
I have to admit, though, yesterday, after doing my, drag brunch.
After doing your gig, yes.
And I had to drop Lady LaBelle off at home and, driving back home on the Sunrise Highway.
Yeah, not fun.
I told Frank, I said, I'm stopping at a 7-Eleven. You have got to get me a Coca-Cola Slurpee. Because I felt like my energy was like
depleted.
I just need
running on empty.
I need that rush of ice, caffeine, and sugar. And let me tell you,
and that'll do it.
You take one sip of that Coca-Cola Slurpee. And, and actually, you know what? I have thinking about it now, because caffeine and sugar, that, especially the caffeine, that is a stimulant.
It is a stimulant.
It is a stimulant.
And they have caffeine tablets. They have caffeine tablets. They have sugar supplements. They have all that fun stuff.
Yes. And so I guess in a way, I was, no different than everybody in this episode.
Else.
Especially in the episode we just watched.
You druggie, you.
I know.
You addict, you.
I know. That makes me think of, you probably wouldn't remember it.
Try
Welcome Back, Kotter.
Yeah.
When John Travolta's character, Barbarino, like they would pretend to be like, he was pretending to be like a drug addict, and he would do like, give me drugs. And it was like...
My father liked Welcome Back, Kotter.
I love that show.
I need to be in the right mood for it, because sometimes I'll watch it and I'm like, this has aged like cheese.
Oh, yeah.
This has aged like a banana.
Yes. But of course, for me, young little gay boy,
seeing John Travolta,
he was originally a teen idol.
He was a teen idol.
He was a teen idol. I mean, I remember him being on American Bandstand, and he had some like some teeny bop records.
Yeah.
I forget.
Yeah, he was a singer at one point.
Yeah,
but he was in Greece, so he's. Yeah. But now he's mashed potatoes.
Yeah. Well, I feel spud like myself at times. So. What can I
disaster.
Say? What can I say? So of course, Florida cannot get Maude any marijuana, and Maude was convinced that Florida could because she's black and
she knows musicians.
She must know musicians,
and just jokes like that are not fun.
No.
You don't hear jokes like that anymore. I mean, you insert. It depends on the medium. Mm-hmm. It depends on the medium where you hear jokes like that. Mm-hmm. Like, you might hear jokes like that on Family Guy or American Dad or animated shows where, like, you can sort of get away with jokes like that.
Right.
But not in sitcoms of the day. No. Not in sitcoms of today.
So now Arthur comes in. And he has a hangover.
He is hungover. He is very hungover.
What did he have? He had a convention or something?
There was some party that he was at, some doctor convention that he was at the night before.
Right.
Yes. And just, again, he was very, very stimulated.
Yes. And I think that's when Walter is asking him for more
prescriptions.
Seconal and Middletons and Libriums.
Libriums.
Yes.
Yeah. Milltowns.
Milltowns.
And these are all drugs that are certain stimulants for, any reason at all. Some are uppers, some are downers.
Yeah.
And just like it really points out the hypocrisy and the irony of, and even Carol points it out.
Yeah.
Like Carol points it out saying, like, you're dispensing drugs like they're going out of style, and you're also like hungover from a party last night from drinking too much alcohol. Like, and then there's this kid who is now arrested for having just a quarter ounce of pot on him.
Right.
And I think,
and Arthur, even being hungover, he has Walter make him a Bloody Mary.
Yeah. He's like, get me a Bloody Mary, I'm dying.
Yeah. And he makes it for him.
But Arthur had mentioned how he should have had it in joint form, because joints are a misdemeanor.
Yes, if you
had a couple three. Where is it?
If you only had like 3 joints,
the punishment does not fit the crime. That was one of the things that happened, because again, this was during a time when marijuana was just starting to become illegal. Or marijuana had always been illegal.
Yes,
and there were punishments for it. So 4 joints is a misdemeanor, and a quarter ounce is a felony.
Yes.
So, hello.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yes.
But yeah, they were discussing that, and of course, Maude and Carol are like, this is not a question of morality. This is not this is just, the punishment does not fit the crime.
Right.
And Arthur goes on one of his conservative right-wing rants saying,
yes,
it's a moral issue, because once you have people smoking pot and getting high, then you have Jane Fonda.
Yes. You know what it all leads to?
It all leads to Jane Fonda.
Yes. And
then Walter says, if it leads to Jane Fonda, why the hell not?
Yes. Well, of course, back then, Jane Fonda had gotten herself into a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
A lot of controversy because she posed...
I mean, even today, she's still getting arrested for protesting.
Yes, but at that time, she was posing with she went to North Korea and was posing with the North Koreans.
Yeah.
And that's when they started calling her Hanoi Jane. That was her.
Oh,
yes,
that's where the expression
comes from. Yes, that's especially a lot of the Vietnam vets.
Yeah.
Were very, very outraged.
There were a lot of celebrities that were against the war in Vietnam.
Yeah.
There were a lot of, like, Eartha Kitt, Jane Fonda. Oh, God, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Oh, what is his name?
Oh,
what's his name?
I can't remember.
You know his name.
I know his name.
I can hear his voice right now.
From, It's a Wonderful Life.
Why is his name escaping me? I think he was also against the war.
Was he?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
All right.
I'll have to check my sources on that one.
Will pop back into my head at some point.
Oh my God, it's going to bother me. We have technology at our fingertips, but still we decide to try and search the confines of our mind.
We're too lazy to actually look something.
I tell you, not to be off topic or anything.
Okay.
But there are days when I am like scrolling through Facebook or scrolling through Tumblr or TikTok, and I will get this idea to start searching for something that really piques my interest. James Stewart.
Thank you, Google.
Thank you, Google.
Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart, I think, was also against the war in Vietnam. But, there are times when I'm, like, scrolling through the internet and just saying, let me look up something. And then I'll open a tab, and it will lead me to something that I was already interested in. So I'll start scrolling there, and I'm like, wait, no.
You've fallen into the Google hole.
There was something else I wanted to look up.
Yes,
what was I going to look up?
Forgot the original thing you were going to look up, because...
And then the word then you have like Alzheimer's disease floating through your head. Like, am I losing it?
Yes.
Am I just getting old?
yes to all those questions.
Thank you. And may I remind you that when it's your time to go, I'll remember this moment.
I know you will. And Arthur even has the nerve to ask Walter for more vodka.
Yeah, more vodka in the Bloody Mary.
And he's getting ready to go, to work.
He's shaking.
Yeah.
His hand is shaking. And he's like, well, thank God I don't have to operate on anybody. And then Maude goes, thank God for him.
Yeah.
What about the person he would possibly be operating on?
Yeah. And Carol had called Arthur out about that. And
again, Carol in certain episodes will usually be the voice of reason.
yes. And she was here.
She was definitely here. But if not Carol, then Maude will usually be the voice of reason. Or the housekeeper will be the voice of reason.
Yes.
But it's always usually Maude versus Walter or Maude versus Arthur. Or I don't think there's ever been a point in time where it was Maude versus Florida. There may have been like 1 or 2 episodes where it was a story about Florida that Maude was butting into because, of course, she's a meddling person.
She has to butt in.
One of the things that I want to point out is that in the beginning of the episode, when Maude and Walter were arguing, Walter says something that Maude comes back at with, what police precinct is going to arrest upper middle class white women?
Right.
As a matter of fact, I have it written down. Where do I have it written down? Because we have notes.
Yes.
And we're, oh my goodness gracious.
We take proficient notes.
We take the most proficient notes, even though my handwriting is god-awful.
We can't read what we've actually written, but we have the notes.
No one is going to arrest a group of middle-aged, upper-class white women.
Which is a very Karen thing to hear.
I think Maude would be a modern Karen.
Yeah.
Maude, I think, would be a modern Karen, only under certain circumstances.
In certain circumstances, yeah.
Especially if she feels that she's right.
Yeah.
So, most of the time.
Most of the time. I mean, think about when she got the ticket, and the cop.
She uprooted a mighty sequoia that day.
Yeah.
She was just unrelenting in her.
I mean, the motorcycle cop had to literally follow her into
her house.
And I mean, looking at it now, it's like that's a very Karen.
It's a very Karen thing to say. It's also white privilege.
Yes.
To be able to say that no police precinct, regardless of possession, will arrest a middle-class white woman. Or an upper-middle-class white woman.
Right.
Especially someone who is even slightly wealthy.
Right.
And it sort of dangles in front of your face when it comes to the prison system.
Mm-hmm.
Because the prison system is predominantly made up of
minorities.
Yeah. And marginalized people.
Yes.
And it's again, it's another one.
The majority of people in prison, the majority are minorities.
Yeah.
So it's kind of.
I mean, the argument is that slavery never ended; it just became the prison system.
Mm.
That's a hot take that nobody's ready to discuss yet, but we are.
Yeah.
If only for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Because it would be a lot.
Yeah.
And again, as we've mentioned in other episodes, we are only 2 white queer individuals, so we can only speak on the white queer experience.
Yes.
It's
true.
But any Hoozlebeans.
So Arthur, he's got to go to work. And
Arthur has to go to work, shaking like a leaf. Drunk. He's drunk. He's high.
God bless the person who he's going to be treating.
God bless the highway that he has to drive on.
Yeah, so now Florida comes in and she has the pot.
She has the pot that Jeff's friend got for her.
Yes, and he dropped off, and she needs $20. She
doesn't
know what it is.
She doesn't know what it is.
She didn't know what it was. And she needs the $20.
She needs the $20. So
yes.
Walter pays Florida.
Yeah.
And as Walter pays Florida for the pot, Maude grabs the pot and goes, "Oh, Florida, there is a pot fairy after all."
Yeah.
And Florida takes
yeah, there was like a second there where they're like
pot fairy.
Yeah, there was a close up of Florida.
A close up of Florida. She goes, "Funny, he looked normal to me,"
yeah.
Which was as I even mentioned to Tony, I'm like, it's a gay joke.
Yeah,
it's a gay joke,
and it was not a good one.
Not a good one.
I didn't find it funny.
Neither did I.
So,
but I think during the 70s, the term fairy was fairy, Mary, sissy, pansy. Like,
Yeah.
these were all words and terms that were thrown around.
And all the names of drag queens.
All the names
we know.
Sissy,
Sissy, Pansy.
Pansy.
We know them.
We do know them.
We do know them.
So it's interesting to see jokes evolve from where that is, because you would never get away with calling somebody a fairy on national television nowadays.
No,
Absolutely
not today. No.
We've come such a long way, and yet still here we are.
Yes. So, but now Walter takes the pot away from Maude,
saying, "I paid for it."
Right. He's not going to give it back.
I think one of the interesting expressions was again, I have it written down. The rights of the individual stop when it affects the marriage.
Yes.
And that was sort of the direction where they were going, because, Walter paid for the pot, therefore the pot is his, it is not Maude's.
Right.
And Maude's like, no, that's not how this is going to work. And they had this big argument about obeying, because I think Walter said something that triggered Maude. What did Walter say? I think Walter called her.
Oh, he's not giving her permission. He wasn't giving her permission.
Wasn't giving her permission,
and that was like
that triggers Maude. That is a trigger for Maude, because Maude is a militant feminist.
I have to be totally honest now. I do. That's like a trigger for me.
I figured as much.
That's a trigger for me, because I remember one time my husband and I were having an argument. And he actually said, he used the word forbid to me. And
I'm gagged.
That was the one only time he used the word forbid with me. Because when I
asked what it was in reference to?
I was going somewhere, and actually I told him, it was Pride, and I was going to the Eagle with a friend, and told him, come meet us, and he was like, I'm not going, and I forbid you to go, and I was like, you forbid? I was, and that was it. I was like, I was like, I'm a grown man. I make my own money. It's like. I was like, nobody is gonna tell me that they forbid me to do. Especially, I was like, I was going just to like socialize.
You weren't going again,
and told him to come. So it wasn't like oh, I'm going to the bar, and I'll be home when I get home, and it's not
like you were being a dirty stay-out.
No, it wasn't. I was like, a friend had come up from Florida. It was Pride.
Yeah.
We had gone to the parade, and then it was like we were going like afterwards to socialize, and I invited him because he had to work, and so I said, don't go home, come meet us.
Yeah.
And he was like, he used the word forbid.
And that was the end of that.
Yeah.
Did you make him sleep on the couch that night?
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
It's funny when another person tells another person that they don't have permission to do a certain thing. Because I will use an example that I was a part of when I came out. I had to come out to my family 3 times. And each time was met with bitterness, anger, and sadness.
Okay.
And every time it was almost like my family just did not want to believe it. And every time it happened, I was always met with resistance. And the resistance was strong with my family.
I'll bet.
I remember the
Italian-American families?
Please. The first time it happened,
how old were you?
I was 20.
Okay.
I was 20 when I came out. And my mother found out about it, and the first words out of her mouth were, "You just broke my heart."
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm a mama's boy, so like as soon as I hear that, I'm like...
You're crushed. Yeah.
I'm devastated.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. Like, this is who I am. This is what's going to happen. And I immediately start calling friends of mine that already knew, that I've already told. My mother thought that they all influenced me. So because of that, she was very hurt that I was telling all of these people whom either knew or didn't know, and she was just really hurt by that.
Did they ever use the that logic, thinking well, maybe it's just a phase, maybe you just haven't met the right girl?
That was the second time I came out.
Oh, okay.
So I want to tell the first because I've never expressed this in a setting like this before. So
this is raw.
This is raw, real raw. As raw as my date last night. Oh, but I'm bummed.
Try the veal.
So we'll be here all week, kids.
Tip your servers.
So the day goes off, my mother is really, really, really devastated. She comes into the room and she just cannot look at me. She cannot look at me because as soon as she looks at me, she starts crying. Lord. So because she's crying, I'm crying, we're all sad, it's really, really...
I'm not crying, you're crying!
Exactly. Really big, really dramatic. So I am sobbing at this point. And what am I watching? The Golden Girls.
Well, of course.
Because I need something to balance out the fact that I am sobbing my eyes out.
Of course you do.
So the day continues, and then my father comes home. Oh yeah. It's a party. Yeah. It's a real party. My mother takes him outside and is crying. My father thought we lost the house. So she tells him, and my father turns to my mother and says, and my mother told me this, he laughed. He laughed and he said, there's no way my son can be gay. And when my mother said that, I just rolled my eyes and I'm like, great, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. He takes me outside. I'm texting my cousin frantic because I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. So he takes me outside, and I see my mother in my jacket, in one of my jackets, just weepy-eyed. My father holds my shoulder, and he says, have you ever sucked dick before? I'm like, okay, I'm going to go die in a hole now.
Oh, God.
So that was a thing.
Oh, lovely.
And I said,
just what you want to hear.
Just what I want to hear from my father. Just what I wanted to hear from my father. Have you ever sucked dick before? That's what every gay child wants to be asked by their parents.
What? No child wants to be questioned about anything
sexual
they've done
by their parent. I mean, just saying it sends shivers down my spine. So because of that, because I had said no, my father took the initiative and says, well, then how can you be if you haven't? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I did not know that dick sucking was going to be a barometer for figuring out where I am as far as...
Oh, it is. Your father knew more than you. Didn't you know that? Where you are on the gay scale.
Where I am on the gay scale is determined by how much penis I've had in my mouth.
Yes.
So we apologize for the graphic imagery that we're putting in front of you, but this is sort of part of this idea that it's about control. It's all about control. The second time I did it, my mother told my father. Now, first and foremost, I had told my siblings because my sister, my gorgeous sister, said to me, "You set a bad example for the gay community by dressing in drag." Had the nerve, the audacity to say this to me, of all people. So when she said that, I'm like, what? How do you know? So I asked her, how do you know what is an example for the gay community? My brother then says, because it was my brother, my sister, and my mother, they were all sitting on the couches, and my brother turns to me and goes, well, how do you know? I said, well, if it ain't obvious by now, I must not be doing my job. My brother and my sister, got up, walked out of the house. My brother turned to my mother and said, good luck with them. My mother turns to me and she goes, what was that all about? I'm like, we're not discussing this because the last time we did, I was a mess and you were a mess. So, of course, father comes home.
Oh, God.
And my mother says, oh, do you know, remember what happened years ago with Thomas? 3 years ago to the day. Do you know what happened with Thomas? All those years ago. He says, yeah. She goes, well, he's at it again. Storms into my room and says, stop hanging out with buttholes and start dating girls. Father of the Year, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
Father of the Year.
And that's all you needed to do?
That's all I needed to hear.
Oh. And that was all you needed to, if you had just done that, you would have been straight.
If I had done that, I would be straight.
Oh, no.
Who knew?
Oh, the answer was so simple. Oh.
So that night, either that night or the day after, I was at a friend's house, and I had wrote a very long letter. Because I'm like, there's no coming back now.
Yeah.
I've come out twice. Like this is the last straw.
Right.
So I wrote a very long letter. My friend's cousin proofread it and edited it accordingly.
Oh Lord!
And she goes, "There's a lot of anger in here." I said, "Yeah, there is a lot of anger in there." So I went home, packed a bag, left the letter on the table, and went to my friend's house to stay there for about a week.
Oh.
That night, when I left the letter, I got voicemails, phone calls, everything. The first voicemail that I listened to was my mother screaming at me.
Oh boy!
Saying, I think she said, "Thomas, this is your mother. If you don't get your effing A home right now, I'm going to drive to your friend's house and pull you out by your hair."
Oh yeah.
So when I say I'm dramatic, you know where I get it from. But then after that, I stayed at my friend's house for a little bit, called family members, and I was just like, what do I do? How do I handle this? How do I deal with these very controlling, very aggressive individuals? And they were like, you're just going to have to deal with it. And I'm like, great, thanks for you guys. Truly appreciate you. So I finally went home after a couple of days because my mother had said, you need to get over yourself. I need to get over myself. I need to get... Okay. Sure. Outstanding. Really about that. So I went home, and then it was me, my mother, and my mother and my father. We were all sitting down, and my father was asking, like, potpourri, like, how's everybody doing? What's going on? And then he turns to me and he says, what about you? I said, well, I'm working right now. What more do you want from me? He goes, that's not what I mean. I'm like, why are we having this discussion now? Why can't you just leave well enough alone? And because I think I had written in the letter, like, Jesus created me in his image. Like, why are you not accepting me in this way because of God?
Right.
And he goes, Jesus did not create you this way. And I'm like, okay, we're not having this discussion anymore. So before we started screaming at each other, my mother said, stop. She turns to me and she goes, are you happy? I said, yes! She goes, all right, then that's the end of it.
There you go.
But boy, howdy, from there to here, I'm surprised I'm still standing.
Oh my Lord!
So controlling husbands, controlling husbands. But welcome back to God Will Get You for That, Walter. Not Tom Cat the miniseries.
Tom Cat, the man, the woman,
God
the queen.
Correct. In fact. So because Walter says, I do not give you permission, Maude goes on a tirade.
Yes.
Saying, you do not give me permission.
You don't own me.
You don't own me, Walter.
You don't own me.
You don't own me.
Careful. We'll get demonetized.
We will get demonetized. It's true.
So Walter is saying that he's going to call a girl from work and
a young chippy.
Yeah, who thinks his bald spot is cute.
And he shows it to Maude.
He literally
waves his head, turning his head to Maude.
I can understand where he's coming from.
I can't. I'm just... My hair's already gone the way of the dodo. So, while Walter is on the phone saying, hey, it's Wally, baby.
Yes. Wally, baby.
I've
heard Walter referred to himself as Wally.
Only when he wants to get under Maude's skin. That's a trigger for Maude.
Okay.
So while Walter's on the phone with this young chippy in quotation marks,
who was that in reality?
It was Arthur.
Yes,
it was Arthur. He goes, yeah, we have plans for this weekend. We'll go and make a big thing of it because Maude is obviously going to be in prison because she's being arrested for the possession. So he ends up saying, what does he end up saying that causes Maude to just lose it?
I don't remember what exactly made her lose it.
I think it was just him talking about making the plans.
But she rips the phone out of the wall.
Rips the phone out of the wall.
Yeah.
Rips the phone out of the wall and, like, is screaming. And she was in a very pretty dress doing it. Mm-hmm. Like, she wasn't in her traditional pantsuits.
No.
So she rips the phone out the wall and goes, Walter goes, Maude, you just ruined my plans for the weekend.
Right.
How dare you?
Right.
So Maude, I think, turns to him and goes, I think she tries to plead with him a little bit, which triggers Walter to say, so the rights of the individual do stop when it affects the marriage.
Yes. Yes.
And
that's when Carol comes down. I think Florida also came in. Oh no, Carol came down.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what happened. It was such a mismatch.
There were a lot. Like there was a lot of things happening.
I think Carol was talking to Walter, and Maude went into the kitchen, and then Florida came out of the kitchen and said that
what a woman that Maude is.
Yeah, Maude grabbed
a handful of oregano
and left
and stormed out the house. I think she said, "Oh no, I don't even have the quote that Florida said that Maude said." All I remember is that Walter had asked her why oregano, and Florida goes, "Well, maybe I think it's because she thinks my Italian food is terrible."
Right. Yes.
Maybe the way I cook Italian food is a crime.
Right.
So after that, we finally cut to
the police station,
the police precinct.
Yes, and all the housewives are there.
All of the housewives are there.
Lorraine, and Maude comes in. They start singing "We
Shall Overcome."
Yeah, little cringy.
Yeah,
Maude is telling them that she has the marijuana and she's going to go speak to the
police
desk sergeant so that they can all be arrested.
Yeah. That's because that's the big thing.
Yes.
They all want to be arrested.
It was almost like, we're all getting manicures today. Oh, we're all getting arrested. We're all getting arrested today, girls.
It was very. If you watch the episode through today's lens, It's a very hard episode to watch.
Yeah,
because you're looking at these middle class, you're looking at these upper class, middle-aged white women who were staging a protest and trying to get arrested for possession of marijuana.
Right.
When today it's like, oh no, we don't want to be arrested. No. We can just protest in the streets. It's fine. Yeah. It's not easier because you'll still be arrested anyway.
Yeah.
It just plays.
Let's not get started on that.
It's an amendment. It's an amendment. You have the right to protest. It's the First Amendment. You have the right to protest.
Yes. Because right now in New York, there's legislature they're trying to put through, I think in Nassau, where police can sue protesters if they're injured. Yes, it was on the news today.
Wow.
Yes, and
I'm interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, and
because it's only back the blue when the blue is behind you.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of the civil rights attorneys are saying this is they're trying to curtail freedom of speech and the right to protest. And
there are so many things that are under scrutiny because of present political motivations. It's really disgusting. It's really unfortunate that this is where we're at right now as a country, where we are just that divided.
Yeah.
Where we are just that divided on literally everything.
Everything.
And it's all about the rights of the rights of marginalized people.
Yes.
I think it's genuinely because marginalized people are finally speaking up and they're tired of being stepped on, present company included.
Right.
How many times do we have to have anti-discrimination laws about being LGBT?
Right.
It's just, we are so divided.
We are.
And then there's Maude.
So she goes to speak to the desk sergeant,
played by Joe Campanella.
Frank Campanella.
Frank Campanella.
Who
the officer's name was Joe Lazario.
Yes.
Joseph Lazario.
Joe, and he reminded.
And Maude insisted on calling him Joey.
Joey, yes, and he reminded her of the Pope.
That is a power move.
Oh yeah.
When you take a person's name and don't call them by that name, and instead turn if anybody calls me Tommy, I will rip their hearts out.
I could never see calling you Tommy.
Nope. That's why I call myself Tomcat.
Yeah.
It's 2 syllables, easy to say.
Yeah.
And it reminds you of Jerry.
Yeah.
And Tom.
I prefer to call you Pussycat, but that's just me.
That's
my nickname.
You've earned the right to call me Pussycat.
I've earned the right to call you Pussycat.
So They're going over everything,
yes.
and Maude obviously does not have pot. She has oregano in her purse.
Oh, what's even funnier is he's finally like relenting, and he's going to arrest her, and he's
reading like, what's your
name?
Maude Findlay. Are you married? At the moment, barely.
And then he asks her age.
What's your age? And Maude does not want to tell her age because she is a woman of a certain age. But even her age was young.
Yeah.
Like, 47 is not old.
Not by today's standards.
Not by today's standards.
Look at Jennifer Lopez.
52 years old and she looks like a freaking Playboy model.
I know,
God bless
right?
her.
Right? So he says he's going to write down the age.
He thinks she
looks, and she's like
47 and I just saved your life.
That's right.
I love that line. Literally love that line so much.
Lord, yes. So now, he, of course, when she shows him the pot,
there was a little back and forth. Like,
yes.
It was a little dry in certain areas when it came to like the back and forth.
Yes. But he smelled the oregano.
Smelled the oregano because
yes.
he's Italian. He's been on it all his life.
That's right.
I don't use oregano in my cooking. Do you?
Oh yes.
Really?
Oh yes.
I have to be in the mood for it. It has an interesting taste.
I always put it in my sauce.
No, I know.
Yes.
Now I know for future reference. Have you ever burnt it?
No.
Maybe that's something we could try.
I very rarely burn anything. So now he's having a rough day. So she offers him a Dexamil.
Offers him a pill.
Right. And now I'm like, well, God, if this was today, it was like you'd probably get arrested.
You would immediately get arrested for bribe. That would be considered bribery.
Right.
That would be considered a bribe.
Yeah.
I genuinely think by today's standards, giving an officer a pill to pick him up would be considered a bribe.
Right.
That just...
So now Maude...
Baller move, though.
Yeah.
A real baller move.
Yeah.
Like, here, you can certainly arrest me, but you're so exhausted. Here's one of my pills.
Here, have a Dexamil. So, he doesn't want to arrest them.
Yeah.
So she's threatening that they're all going to get naked.
Yes, they're going to stage a sit-in stark naked. They all start to disrobe, and then I was going to say Frank, but then Joe calls over one of his assistants. What was
Collins?
Yeah, no, Collins was the name of the kid.
Oh, that's right. Howard Collins was the name.
Yeah, Howard Collins was the name of the kid that was arrested.
Right. He calls over.
Calls over one of his assistants.
The sergeant calls over one of the cops under him
and says, "Here's what, $20, $50?
Something." Yeah, and he tells him to go buy some pot.
Go to the corner and buy this lady some grass.
Right, so that they can be arrested.
And he goes, there was a big laugh because obviously the hypocrisy of it all. And Maude just gives him this incredulous look, like You know where it is?
Yeah, and he's like, we know where it is, we just don't have time to
round everybody up.
Yes. And I think that's about when the phone rings.
So the phone rings.
And the whole, tone of the episode
just shifted.
It
totally shifted. Because he looks at Maude and goes, "Lady, go home."
Yeah, he's
just
like,
go home.
Them to go home.
Yeah, just get everybody, go home now. So Maude surmises and puts two and two together and says that was about the Collins kid, wasn't it?
Right.
What happened to him?
Yeah, and the judge gave him
3 years.
3 years for
possession.
A little bit of pot.
For a quarter ounce of pot.
Yes. But meanwhile, everybody else in this whole episode is drinking, popping Seconal,
drinking pills,
Middletons, and Libriums, Dexamils,
chlorohydrates, Valiums.
Yeah. So,
but I think that is one of the beautiful things about a lot of Norman Lear shows is that he that was his goal.
Yeah.
His goal was to point out the hypocrisy of American politics.
Yeah, and not just politics, but also
societal norms. Absolutely,
he really did it in this one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I genuinely think that during the 70s, his finger was on the pulse of American society during the 70s.
Yeah.
Because he had so many hits that dealt with a lot of these issues.
Yes.
That we're still talking about today!
Yeah, so they all start leaving, and the desk sergeant pops the Dexamil
and drinks some water.
Yeah.
And I think Maude was also mentioning his kids and saying, how would you feel if your kids were in the same situation as this Howard Collins kid.
Getting arrested for
possession.
Yeah.
And, Joe ends up saying, my kid turns on by putting their toes in her mouth. She's 2.
Yeah, his kid is 2.
So they go home. The Collins kid was arrested for 3 years for possession.
Sentenced to jail for 3 years. Yes.
And the epilogue of the episode is Maude saying, we're going to stage a picket. We have 1,000 women, all in the state of New York.
They're going to protest in Albany. Outside the governor's house.
Outside the governor's house.
The governor's mansion.
They've rented a bus.
Right.
And they're all going to go up and they're all going to picket.
Right.
So Walter is like, Maude, you're incredible. Like, what can I do to help? Because,
right.
They've obviously made up.
Yes.
And Maude says, oh, you helped plenty. You rented the bus.
Good old Walter.
He
didn't even know it.
He didn't even know that he helped.
He didn't even know he
But
helped.
it was the same thing as the episode with Maude and the Radical, where
he had made a donation that he wasn't even
aware of. How much was it? I think $1,000. It was $1,000.
$1,000.
Oh, remember when $1,000 was a lot of money?
Yeah, not anymore.
I remember when $1,000 was a lot of money. I miss those days.
Yeah.
I wish that they would come back.
I know. I know.
Oh, inflation is real, kids.
Yeah.
But that does conclude another marvelous episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
Yes.
If you would like to follow us, you can at Findley's Friendly Appliances on Instagram. You can follow us on Facebook at God'll Get You for That, Walter. You can email us at Findley's Friendly Appliances. You can also follow us on YouTube at God'll Get You for That. So God'll Get You for That, Walter, and Findley's Friendly Appliances. You can email, check us out, all that fun stuff.
All that good stuff.
If you would like to follow me, you can at ThatTomcat. I do have my own website. It's thattomcat.com. And if you would like to follow this gorgeous hunk of man right here, this withering raisin in sneakers that I call a mother, you can
follow Toni Homeperm on Facebook and Instagram, and also my own website, ToniHomeperm.com. And that's Toni with an I. She loves when I say that.
I do love when you say that. And I still stand by my statement. You are going to have your own one-woman show called Toni with an I.
I already do in my own mind.
Well, that's where it'll stay most likely if you don't get out there and show it around to the people.
I know.
And if you would like to continue to listen to us, you can on Buzzsprout. We just got
picked up
by iHeartRadio
and Apple Podcasts.
I
know.
We're official now, kids.
We're everywhere.
Made it.
We made the big time, kid.
We literally are everywhere.
We're everywhere. We're like savoir-faire.
That's right.
Is everywhere. That's us.
Oh, my goodness. So thank you, friends, for listening to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.